Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with the Therapist this wonderful Monday morning. I know that a lot of things have been shifting in our current system of just trying to address this pandemic where many people don't have the answers, and in fact, our experts don't have the answers. And so today I was actually going to address the ways that we could respond to this situation the best that we can, and kind of with our mental health intact and taking kind of a bigger picture perspective. It's not to say that we should do one thing or another. That is not my area of expertise. However, I do love looking at the psychology of things and even understanding my own instinctual reactions to things, because I'm going to be completely honest. So in Kansas, we have mandated masks in public areas where we can't distance more than 6 feet. And at first, that was not a really exciting thing for me. In fact, I had some issues with it for several different reasons, including that, the biggest two for me are that, number one, sometimes in the past, I've had situational claustrophobia, something I've kind of weirdly developed as an adult, where while I've been traveling is usually when I figure out what they are, because they're kind of different scenarios. But essentially, when I feel like something is covering my face, my body will sometimes go into panic mode and start to kind of hyperventilate, and I can really struggle with panic attacks if I feel like I can't breathe. And so I was actually very concerned at first that masks might trigger that response for me, and luckily it doesn't. But I do have a lot of empathy for people if that is part of their struggle, because I do know that that's genuinely a psychological trigger for some people. And yeah, based on my own little weird isms where like mosquito nets and some other things trigger it for me, I have empathy for that. And I definitely think it's still worth pursuing in therapy and working through and doing grounding and exposure work around that. But I know that that's a reality for some people. And then the second thing is that for me personally, it can be very difficult for me to follow a rule if I don't completely understand why it's set, or if there isn't science behind it. And we are in a day and age where we are having all these different rules and mandates created without the science, without knowing exactly why they're being set or having a lot to back them up. And so I also have empathy with that mindset that it can be really hard for us to follow things when we don't fully understand why they're happening, or, if we don't fully know that they're the right thing to do. So we're all kind of in that boat, and I do want to empathize with that. And I think it's also important for us to realize that because of the uncertainty, we don't have the answers. And so the next best thing we can do is choose how we respond to these mandates. Given that we don't have the answers as to what's necessarily the best thing to do right now and what's not, other than some preliminary evidence, I do want to give due justice to that I think the reason why these mandates are coming about is they have some evidence that mask wearing is correlated to less outbreaks and the numbers going down. So I want to give due diligence to that. Of course, there could be so many factors as to why that is, but regardless, without knowing exactly what to do in this situation and the experts kind of going back and forth, I do think that they're trying their best to just play it safe in different ways. And so the big quote that I would hope that people would consider, and I actually posted this on my Instagram yesterday, is that when you can't control what's happening, which is a lot of what's going on right now in our environment, challenge yourself to control the way that you are responding to what's happening, because that is where our power is. So all we have right now is our choice to choose how to respond to everything that's happening. And so even if you agree or disagree, and especially for those that are struggling with this and disagree, that it's important to remember that we have a choice in how we respond to what's happening. And it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. I know that was definitely my initial response. And to remember that when we are talking to different businesses around town or people that have to enforce this, I'm a business as well, so I have empathy for the business owner component, that when they are enforcing this, it is part of a policy we are doing to do the best thing we know to do in the circumstance and to follow the rules. and that, it's not our personal thing that we're trying to take people's freedoms away. And essentially, it's not about us, right? And so this isn't even about talking about the politics, but understanding that when you're communicating with people about your concerns, that it's really important that we treat people like people and that we're kind, and kind to the businesses that are enforcing this. Or, if you disagree, just choose to not go to those businesses or choose to use other routes. If you struggle with the psychological component, maybe trying out a face shield instead of a face mask, maybe that would be more helpful. For some people it wouldn't, but there's also some other really cool alternatives we can use, such as picking up groceries from the like drive up area, or ordering for someone to come deliver them for us. There's a lot of volunteers in Wichita that are actually going out and doing this for free for people, where they're picking up groceries for people. So if anxiety, or if you have medical barriers to wearing masks in these public places, there are resources out there, and just maybe trying to navigate life in ways where you would avoid public places you'd have to wear mask in. I know that's not the ideal, but it's kind of where we're at. And also realizing that the good news is, if we can distance ourselves 6 feet, or go to places where we can distance ourselves 6 feet, we don't have to wear masks. And so even in my own practice, we wear our masks in the public area, but I am very fortunate to have a large therapy office, so I am just going to socially distance myself from my clients so I can see their face, and vice versa, because you can imagine that doing therapy with a mask would be a little weird. The other thing too is, again, I love to understand why rules are created, and I know that we don't have like all the answers to why we have to do this right now. But to kind of help my own brain navigate this and wrap itself around it in the best way, and to respond in a way that's the least stressful. I also got this really cute mask from a local organization here. And so, something you can do is just try to make the best of it by, getting a mask that's cute. There's even masks with middle fingers on them. Not that I'm advocating for that, but for those of you who are a little sassy, again, you could get something colorful or something that makes a statement in a different way, because again, we're not in control of all the rules. We don't have control over how all this plays out in general. And I think the general frustration that people are feeling is that all of this is unpredictable. We don't have control over what happens, and a lot of people have been negatively impacted. And I think it just goes to show that it's important that we are taking care of ourselves, that we are taking care of our mental health, that we are trying to be kind and do the little cute things like wearing silly masks to just spread a little bit of joy and cheer. Because you're absolutely right. We don't have a lot that's in our control. And I get the frustrations of people because they have had to pivot and make a lot of changes, which is scientifically hard on our brains too. It does take a lot of energy for us to change what we're doing, to change our habits. I'm definitely going to have a couple of these hanging around, because I know that I will definitely forget my mask from time to time. So be kind to yourself and have grace with yourself in this process too, because there is a lot of change. And, again, in 4 weeks, there may be something different. But what I wanted to talk about is how we can navigate this psychologically and try to make the best of it and try to be the most peaceful that we can while still maintaining our integrity. You don't have to agree with the mandate. You don't have to believe that it's scientifically sound or that we have the answers, because I don't really think we have those full answers yet, nor will we until the future. Regardless, I think the most peaceful way to navigate this is to make the best of it and to be kind to those who are having to enforce it, because you really don't know what their perspective is on it, whether they're super pro mask wearing or not. And at the end of the day, since we have all this uncertainty, I do think it's better to err on the side of caution. And if we could just take little parts of our day and wear a mask while we're in public spaces, and that keeps our economy going, and that keeps, people up and being able to still connect with each other, I think that's overall good for our mental health and our well-being. And so I'm in support of doing what we can do to navigate this in a way that's kind and good for our mental health. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. If you have any other questions around this, I'd be happy to answer them. And feel free to ask other questions as well. Have a wonderful Monday.